Hi, and welcome to this video of Dynamics 365 Talk, where I'll be discussing the 2020 Release Wave 2 features, which came out for early access on August 3rd, 2020. In my previous video, I discussed part 2 of the Dynamics 365 customer service updates, and in this video, I'll cover the updates in Dynamics 365 field service. Now, there's a lot of new stuff in field service, so therefore I'm also going to split out this video into separate ones. But before we get going, let me just first introduce myself. My name is Dion Taylor. I am a Microsoft Business Applications MVP. Feel free to check out my blog at d365goddess.com, follow me on Twitter at d365goddess, or just connect with me on LinkedIn by scanning the QR code on your screen. So our agenda that we are going to cover today is we're going to discuss the functional locations and asset hierarchy, the new work order summary report, some enhanced requirements for work hour calendar, and then obviously some of the updates and enhancements in the Dynamics 365 field service mobile applications. I'll talk a little bit about the travel outside work hours. This is actually for RSO only. And what I will do is I will actually put a video from Microsoft in the comments so you can watch that video in regards to that. And then lastly, I will talk a little bit about inspections that are now generally available. Now, I have written an article, or actually a couple of articles about that. So again, I will also drop the links to those articles in the comments as well, so you can check that out. All right, let's get started. Now, I'm very excited about this one. So this feature allows us to build out physical spaces at a customer location without having to use the account entity. So in other words, we can now use that new functional location entity to build out this hierarchy. So if you log into field service, you can see here that I have that new entity that's called functional locations. So let me just go ahead and drill into that. And here you can see a list of those functional locations. Now you also see this hierarchy icon on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start from that parent location. You can see here Adatum Corp main building. If I click here on that hierarchy icon, I can see the hierarchy of those physical locations. So I can see here at Adatum Corp main building, I have building 2, building 5123, and I also have at the main building floor 1, 2, 3 parking lot and the roof. And if I expand this, so I can see on floor 1 we have the conference room, 1 and 2, the lobby and the mail room, and in building 5123 we have conference room 3. So you can kind of see it like this in a hierarchy as well. Or let me just go ahead and actually open up that record. And I'm going to click here on assets and locations. And this is also where you can view that hierarchy. So let me just expand that real quick. So again, I have here, let me just go back. I have here my Adatum Corp main building that has attached building 2, building 5123. The main building has floor 1, 2, and 3, the parking lot, and the roof. Now, if we needed to add some of these buildings here, we can do that very quickly, again, depending on where you want to add it. If I'm going to say I'm going to add floor 4 for Adatum Corporation main building, I can just go ahead and say new location. I'm going to call that floor 4. And you can see here that you have an address as well, and I'll talk about that in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and save and close, and then you can see now I have floor 4. Now, if I wanted to move some of this stuff around, because you can see it's kind of showing this alphabetical. If I didn't want that, I can move some of this stuff around. So if I'm going to say, hey, I want the parking lot on the bottom, I can just go ahead and move that, drag and drop that around, or let me just move the floor, the roof actually. There we go. So you can see that you can kind of move that around however you want that. Now, also, let's say the parking lot is actually not here at my Adatum Corp main building. It's actually at building 5123. I can expand that, and you can see here that I have a conference room here as well, and I can just drag and drop. Oops, I need to drop it in the building. Here we go, in the building, and now building 5123 has the parking lot as well. And obviously if I want to remove that again, I'm just going to drop it here on the main building, and my parking lot is now over here. And again, if I want to move that down, oops, I can do that obviously as well. Try that one more time. Let's put it right above the roof, and here is our parking lot. The other thing that you can see here is the assets that are associated with each of those locations. So you can see here that I have this assembly virtuoso power unit here in building 5123. If I expand this, I also have carpet here as well, which is also a customer asset. Let's see here on the roof, we have an HVAC unit. And under that HVAC unit, I have all of these other customer assets related to that HVAC unit as well. Now, the other thing that we can do, obviously, is we can associate accounts with these assets and locations. And it's actually a many-to-many relationship, so that, you know, think about maybe you have two buildings at a Datum Corp and you want to associate both of them with this particular structure, right? So you could do that. Maybe there's two main buildings next to each other, then we can relate them together. So you can go here to relate it, and I can go to accounts, and you can see here this is only related to a Datum Corporation. But if I wanted to relate this to another existing account, right, I can just go ahead and pick that one and add it like this to that asset and locations. Now, what I've done here, if I actually open up here, building 5123, if you click here on related accounts, I actually have my building 5123, which is an account record. Let me open that up. And that is actually associated with a Datum Corporation. Right? So let's go here to a Datum Corporation, and now again also take a look at those assets and locations. Right? So now we can see that first line is that account record, this account record. And then we have here a Datum Corp main building. Now you saw earlier that, oops, let me click on edit location, that there is an address section on here as well with a latitude and a longitude. When we are creating work orders, the system is going to take a look at that. If it does not have an address, it's going to pick whoever is on whatever parent has an address. So in this particular case, this would be the account record, right? A Datum Corporation that has an address, right? Because if we look here at the summary page, we have an address over here. Now let's go back to assets and locations. If I have a work order that is, right, the account is going to be building 5123, that might be a different, just double click, different address. So you can see here, I have a different address. It's close, but this is 15 Hanover, and a Datum is 7 Hanover. Right? So let's take a look at that. What happens when we're actually creating the work orders? So let me just go here to work orders. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to use the entire page. So let's say we're going to use a Datum Corporation, and we are going to grab one of those functional locations. So let's say this is going to be in the main building. You can see here that this does not change, right? Even though we saw earlier that a Datum Corp main building did not have an address. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is that this is actually, this functional location, as you can see, is filtering on all of the functional locations related to this particular account. Now, if I wanted to turn that off, I can do that. I can change that view to say, you know, just allow me to look up any functional location. We could do that. So it really depends on what you need. Maybe you haven't been able to set up the functional locations yet, right? You haven't been able to associate them with the account, so you can do that as well if you wanted to. So now again, let's pick another one, right? Maybe we're actually going to do this service at a different account. And that's actually going to be building 2, because building 2 has its own address. Let's go back here real quick. Let's take a look at building 2. The address, 83 Pearl Street. All right, let's go back to our work order. Let's pick that, building 2, and we now see that it automatically sets the address on the work order to 83 Pearl Street. Okay, great. What if the work is not here, but it's actually somewhere else? So let's now say that we're going to create an additional conference room here for building 2. I'm going to do a new location. So this is how you can very quickly add locations. We're going to say conference room 4, and I'm not going to put a street and an address in there, because when I select conference room 4, it's automatically going to take a look and grab the address of the parent that has an address. Now, building 2 has an address. If it did not, it would just grab this guy. If that doesn't have an address, it would grab this guy. So let's now try that. Again, let's remove building 2, which again, as you can see, sits my address back to 7 Hanover. Now let's go ahead and pick conference room 4. It's going to show us that particular address, and that's what we want. So you can see how this is very, very powerful, right? All right, let's go back. I'm going back here to the account form. So the other thing that you see here is this show assets button, right? So when I click on that, I'm going to be able to see where all of the customer assets are at Datum Corporation, which location that they're at. So you can see here that I have the assembly Virtuoso power unit here in building 5129. I can also see, I can expand my roof here, and I can see I have an HVAC unit there. And if I expand that even further, I can see here, right, these items that are related to that. This also has drag and drop. So if I need to move any of those items around, I can go ahead and do that, right? So for example, on the mailroom here, we have this shredder. If I wanted to move that, for example, to the conference room, right? I can just, like you saw earlier, I can just drop that in there, and you can now see that the shredder is now in the conference room. Let's actually put that back. We want to keep it in the mailroom, right? Now, why is that important? Now, just like we saw earlier with the addresses, the other thing it does when you actually enter that functional location, the system is going to filter out those customer assets that are located at that location. You can see that there are no customer assets here, right? So let's go back here to the functional location real quick and take a look. I'm going to go to the mailroom because that has that shredder. Okay, let's go back to the work order. Let's now select the mailroom. Here we go. And you can see now, you should be able to see now. Okay, so this should now only show that item in the mailroom. Let me try that again. All right, so instead of doing the mailroom, let's try the roof. Here we go. And here we go. So now we can select that HVAC unit, right, which was on the roof. Now, if I needed to change this view, if I wanted to be able to select other assets, I can just go ahead and click that change view, right? And then I can uncheck this so it doesn't filter by that functional location. And now I should be able to go ahead and just pick, oops, device lookup view, right? And now I can go ahead and pick any of those. Now, this also works the other way around. So let's say I'm going to populate my primary incident customer asset first. Let's just clear those. Let's go back and select the HVAC unit. And now you can see, because the HVAC unit was on the roof, it automatically populates my functional location. Okay, so let's add the incident type as well. Let's say it's going to be a fan out issue. I can put the contact in here as well. This was done by Adrian. And, oh, I'm not sure why my HVAC unit was gone. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is that these functional locations have been added to several other areas. So for example, oops, if I look here at my incidents, I'm just going to go ahead and open that up. Now you can see if you click on incident relates to, that functional location actually came through. Right, so again, I can see the customer asset, which was already there, but now also I have the functional location. If I wanted to add an incident here, right, because we can have multiple work order incidents, I actually have the ability to now link that to a different customer asset and a different functional location as well, right? So I can pick a different one and then just go ahead and associate that customer asset in here as well. And then lastly, if we go to case management, I'm actually going to create a new case here. You can see here on the tab Field Service, we now also have the ability to add the functional location on here as well. And then when you convert that into, let me actually go ahead and create that. So let's say this is going to be conference room 3, right? And the customer is a datum corporation. Put a contact in there, like all that stuff that we normally do. But like we said earlier, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Oh, it's going to with HVAC. Go ahead and save that. And we already had the ability, obviously, to put the customer asset in there. But as you can see on the Field Service tab, we can now also put in that functional location. And then when we do convert this to a work order, the functional location will also be copied over to that work order. And then lastly here on the agreement, let me actually go ahead and go to that booking setup and open up the incident here. And as you can see, that now also has been added here to that agreement booking incident. So again, right, if you add a functional location and then you allow this agreement to automatically create, let me actually go back, automatically create those work orders, it's going to bring in that functional location in each of those work orders that are automatically be created by this agreement. So there is a new report. Let me just go ahead and get back here. So if you scroll down here under Analytics and Insights and you click here on Reports, and just give it a second to load here. So this is a brand spanking new out-of-the-box report. So you also see on the top here that you have the ability to like filter, right? You can say, however, the last, the next, or this month, right? 12 months, like whatever. You can sort here for the different customer system statuses, work order type, substatus, territories, etc. But I thought this was pretty cool because again, there's nothing we have to do for this, right? This is just an out-of-the-box Power BI report that's been added to the application. Now, I'm really hoping that we're going to actually get access to this PBIX file so that if you need to make some tweaks because you're added some fields to work orders, etc., then you're going to be able to do that. So let's hope that that's going to be the case. Now in Release Wave 1, we actually had the work hours calendar for resources that got that facelift, right? It looks a little bit or a lot, I should say, different. So they actually did the same thing for the requirement work hours calendar as well. So let me show you. So let's open resource requirements, and let's just open up one of these work orders. And then you can see here the modify calendar. So if you would ever needed to modify that, you can do that over here, right? You can put in your business closures. And again, now you can just go ahead and set per each day the start and end time for this particular, right? You can change it here as well for this particular resource requirement. Okay, let's talk about the new field service mobile app. So first of all, you're going to see that there's a lot more entities that actually have been added to that app. So I'm going to click on that hamburger icon that you see on the top left. If I click on that, you can see now that products have been added to that My Work section. And there's a new section, as you can see, that's called Assets. And let's see here, we now have IoT alerts in there as well. Then you can see functional locations added as well, and IoT devices as well. And then if you look at the other section on like previously before this update, that's actually been removed, and they added a new section that is on the bottom there that you can see time reporting. And we can see that the time off requests and time entries are now over there, right? Time off requests has been moved from other to time reporting, and time entries has been added. And there's also some updates to the booking screen. So let me just go ahead and open that booking screen. So the booking status field, that's really a lookup, right? So they changed that to now actually show as an option set, which is a lot nicer, right? You don't have to go through a list and like all that kind of stuff. You can just go ahead and select that. So I really like that they did that. And then if you're accessing that customer tab here, let me just go ahead. You can see that those address fields are now all kind of merged together, right? And if I click on this edit, that little pencil icon over here, you're going to see like you're going to get a pop-up, right, with all of those fields, and I can now start editing all of that. So you can see it's a lot nicer, and it takes up less screen real estate as well. Now, anytime when you have a subgrid, I'm going to go here to service. Anytime when you have a subgrid that does not have data in it, I'm going to scroll down here. Oh, you don't see that over here, but basically what that will look like is you're going to see a button that just says plus new and then whatever is in that subgrid. So let me actually remove let me actually remove the services here real quick and then come back and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go here to services. I'm going to say delete services. Yep, let's get rid of that. And this is what I was talking about. So now you can see that button plus new work order service. I can just go ahead and click on that, and then I can start adding obviously that service in here. Now, the data in those grids, that's actually going to show you up to 5 records. So keep that in mind as well. Now, if you look at the Microsoft Docs site, there's going to be some additional updates as well. For example, push notifications, which allows us to send alerts to technicians. Now, this is not available yet in this pre-release, but I wanted to let you know that that's also something that's coming. They also had something listed that's called customized reporting. And there are some offline enhancements such as, synchronization, performance improvements, etc. And then you're also going to be able to record service with photos, videos, and files, etc. up to 32 megabytes. So that's, again, what is showing on the Microsoft's Docs site. Now, this feature is for RSO only. So if your organization is not using that resource scheduling optimization, then you can kind of skip over this part. this feature actually allows you now to configure resources to allow for travel time outside of their set work orders. So for example, if you have a resource where their hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we can actually configure his record to allow him to travel, for example, like 30 minutes outside of his work hours. So what that means is that 30 minutes of that travel will be before or after his work shift starts or when it ends, right? So for example, if you have a work hour that requires, an hour of travel time, the RSO is going to allow us to schedule this work to this particular resource, which will then start at 8:30 a.m. Because again, right, those 30 minutes of travel time will be outside of his work hours. So again, that is not for, obviously us dropping stuff on the board, because we can just, do that ourselves. It also has nothing to do with the scheduling assistant. It is really for people who are using RSO, aka resource scheduling optimization. And again, I will drop a link to a video that Microsoft actually did on this, so you can kind of see how that works. And then I wanted to let you guys know that with this new release, inspections is going to be generally available with this. I actually wrote a couple of articles about this, and I'm going to also drop those links in the comment section so that if you want to find out about inspections, how do they work, what do they do, you can take a look at those articles, and those also have videos on it as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, and be sure to check back again next week for part 2 of the field service updates. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe, everybody.